Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I want to talk to you today about ultimate justice. The sort of justice that our criminal justice system saves from the most horrific crimes against humanity, like school shooters or murderers who torture their victims. I'm talking about the death penalty and the important function it plays in a just society. It does so by deterring heinous actions like cold-blooded murder and performs the retributive aspect of justice. So first off, the penalty of death offers a principled deterrence to crime. I say principled because according to the research conducted by the National Research Council of the National Academies in 2012, empirical data on the deterrent effect of capital punishment on homicides is inconclusive. A lot of the research was contradictory, or a lot of the findings were contradictory. So essentially what this means is that when we consider this argument, we can't use statistics to guide our judgment. However, you may consider that this research is really limited because capital punishment today is just a glorified life sentence. But if we turn to criminal psychology, we can find a rational deterrence against conspiring evil. Look up, for example, Gary Becker, a professor of economics and sociology at the University of Chicago, and also a Nobel Prize awardee. In a 1968 article he published called Crime and Punishment: An Economics Approach, he argues that criminals are utility maximizers, and they base their decision on whether to commit a crime on opportunity and the costs and benefits of criminal activity. Essentially, the reason we want to promote is that if my plan to take your life will end up costing me mine, then why would I want to do that? The logic here implies the equality of human life. The rational deterrent aspect is also important because our criminal justice system offers under the assumption that people are free moral agents capable of reasoning and free will. To assume otherwise completely undermines our criminal justice system. There would not be any purpose of prosecuting criminals because their actions were inevitable. We don't operate under that assumption. This leads me to my next point. When the scales of justice have been tipped, we need a retributive justice to restore balance. Retributive justice is good because it provides psychological relief for the victim's family and affirms the value of life as implied in the 14th Amendment. Often, the psychological responses of co-victims, that is, people who are close to the victim, are dismissed as if their feelings of injustice and revenge were inconsequential or like they were not allowed to have them. Well, an article published by the American Journal of Bioethics titled "The Ethical Elephant in the Death Penalty Room" by Michael Kane of Monash Medical Center, he asserts that the psychological trauma of injustice is, in medical terminology, the equivalent of anxiety. The feeling of revenge when a murderer receives reprieve as adjustment disorder. And the psychological burden of this can lead to major depression. And the incongruity of society protecting the murderer can lead to debilitative obsessive thoughts. We know this as obsessive compulsive disorder. It is important to note here that not all co-victims will experience these psychological reactions, but that some do is reason enough not to do away with capital punishment. Now, if we turn to the 14th Amendment and the guarantee of people's equal protection under the law, we will find another issue. A person who is murdered has had their fundamental right to life violated. The state, in abolishing or even prolonging an execution, clearly favors the right of life of the assailant. However, in administering capital punishment, the assailant is given the fair trial that due process demands, the right they denied their victim. This is important because if justice fails to protect the value of life that innocent people have, then the citizenry is better off getting justice themselves instead of vesting their power in a government who fails to do so. Now, opponents of capital punishment claim that the process costs a morbid amount, and they would be right. California notoriously has the most inefficient and costliest death row in the nation. A 2017 article posted by SafeCalifornia.org, a site run by California-based prosecutors and public defenders, they stated that over the last 40 years there has been 13 executions in the state, and the cost to do it was $5 billion. The LA Times recently reported that our state's death row has reached 737. Wow, it's a very big backlog. However, we shouldn't throw away the baby out with the bathwater. The real problem is not the sentence itself, but the current system's procedure is dysfunctional. U.S. District Judge Cormac Carney in a 2014 lawsuit addressed that the delays in the post-conviction review process, which are inherent, lead to an unrealistic probability that an execution will be carried out. And if it does so, it is merely by chance and has nothing to do with factors related to the crime, which therefore renders the sentence the process unconstitutional under the Eighth Amendment, prohibiting cruel and unusual punishment. The solution is to reform our lengthy process, and suggestions for reform range from limiting the crimes that are eligible for capital sentencing to limiting the automatic process of appeals for such cases. In conclusion, capital punishment has a place in a civilized society. It is a deterrent for horrific crimes against humanity and provides retribution when it is used effectively. As it is used today, it is not. As an atheist, I believe that life on earth is our only one. I don't have faith in a divine being who will provide justice in the afterlife. It is of no consolation to me that the worst kinds of criminals not only tax our morality, but also economically, as we are forced to sustain them until they die of old age. Therefore, it is the duty of society to execute justice here on earth, where there can be felt a tangible sense of it, and not a lofty and inconclusive sense of justice. Thank you.